As usual, it's a busy day at our shop. You can see all the cars that we're working on, all the noise that's going on. And we're going to talk about some brakes this morning. I'm going to show you how to put on rear brakes. Rear brake shoes is what we normally do. Of course, you can get disc brakes on the rear, but let's go over here to this yellow truck and we'll take a look. Right here, you can see we're working on the front axle of that truck. And on this particular vehicle, we're doing an inspection on it, but we're also working on the tailgate to figure out why the glass won't go up and down. So let's start over here with the brakes, and you can see that we have them all laid out. The brakes actually go right here. Here's where your wheel would attach. These are the studs where the lug nuts go to hold your wheel on. This is the axle right here that turns to turn your wheel. This is called the backing plate. This is what the shoes of the brakes attach to. This is the wheel cylinder. The wheel cylinder is what expands like this to push these two rods out that connect to the brake shoes. They push out and rub against the brake drum, which slides over this whole thing and stops your car. So the very first thing that we do is we use some lubricant, and we use this right here. It's called brake system grease. We've got a little brush here that you can buy anywhere, and we lubricate the spots where the brake shoes are going to rub and the pivot right here where the brake shoes pivot. So it's not real hard to do. Just put a little brake shoe in there. I got probably a little bit too much on there. So we're going to start by putting the brake shoes on, and you can see how they go together. Here's the adjustment at the bottom. Here's the self-adjuster that keeps the brakes adjusted up after you've installed everything. Here's the cable that operates the self-adjuster. Here's the two side pins, springs that hold it on. This is the bar that holds the emergency brake on, or park brake, and these two springs hold the brake shoes at the top, along with this big piece right here that goes right over the pivot pin. So we're going to take a shot at it. Here we go. We're going to put the brakes together. I'm going to back up a minute, and you can see we're putting the pins in first. Everybody has a different way of doing this, by the way, so whatever you're comfortable with. It's kind of unmanageable right at first before you get everything kind of set up. Once you get the brake shoes on there, then it's pretty easy to use. So here we go. We're going to attach the park brake cable to the arm on the rear brake shoe. Right there. We got that done. We've already dropped something. Noah's nervous that we're going to drop something here, and I'm told him it's going to be okay. So next, we're going to put the brake shoe on with the hold down springs and the pivot. So I'm going to hold the back of that for him. Maybe that'll make it a little easier. And get my finger around there. You got it on your finger?
I got it.
Okay. And you can see with the tool, it's a very simple thing to put on. Without the tool, it's really hard. But you push the spring in and then you turn it 90 degrees and you'll see that it catches right there. Let me get a good picture of that. Okay, now we're going to do the other side with the other brake shoe. And one of the things you got to remember is you have the rear shoe that's longer in the back, meaning the brake pad part of the shoe, and the shorter one that's in the front. So if you have trouble remember that, just remember like it was at grade school where they put all the short kids in front for a picture and all the long kids in the back. That's a pretty easy way to remember that. I have to have ways to remind myself. Now he's putting the front shoe on. This is kind of tedious work. It's not very hard, but it sure does can test your patience sometimes. Okay, so you can see we got that on. Now you see that's the easiest part. We now have the shoes attached, and now it's just a matter of putting the rest of the components on there. You'll see that on this one, there's some notches that go in the brake shoe on these piston rods that stick up right here, and you can kind of see those notches right there, and they slide right over the brake shoe. All right, here we go. Now we're going to put that plate up there to keep the brake shoes from walking away from the brake backing plate. And next he has put the horseshoe on there right here for the self-adjuster. Then the spring goes into that. Then we put the cable on for the self-adjuster, kind of hanging around the back. You can see all this is kind of just hanging as we're doing the work. We're going to get that on there. Now he's going to use his special tool here to put the brake spring on. This is real simple if you got this tool. Watch how easy this spring goes on once you get this all set up. So the shoe needs to come forward a little bit, but he'll get that all worked out here. So we're going to try to get the shoe in position. That's what he was nervous about. So we didn't want to knock stuff on the floor. It looked like we didn't know what we're doing. Okay, we're going to put that back on there. And don't get frustrated with this, because that's just the way it goes with brake shoes. It's very, for one guy especially, you need 4 hands instead of 2. Okay, this tool will put that spring on there. Watch how this works. It slides right across. Look at that. Makes kind of a funny noise. Well, didn't make it on the first shot. We'll do it again. Okay, you can see that spring is on there. And now you can see this curved part of this shoe fits up against this stud that is permanently made into the backing plate. So now we're going to move on. He's got that one in there. He pushes it up, kind of makes some adjustments on it, make sure everything's fitting properly. Now he's going to put the equalizer in for the park brake. And it has a little spring that goes on it. Here we go with that spring on the front part of the shoe. And it also has a groove so you can see that it fits onto the shoe in the front. And it fits on the park brake arm in the back right here that's attached to the brake cable at the bottom side. Here goes another spring with the same great tool that we always use. My tool like that I bought in high school. So they last forever, and they are very handy when you want to put drum brakes together. That's probably my favorite tool. All right, so got to get that shoe where it needs to go. Get it up against the pivot. Missed. Here we go again.
Get that one right there.
Yep. I'll help with my thumb here. That ought to be an important help. Okay. Now, you can see that we have both upper springs. And notice that one spring's longer and thinner than the other spring. So when you take it apart, be sure you pay attention, or get your owner's manual out, or your repair manual, so you can see which way they go. Sometimes they're color-coded. These are both brown. So now we're going to work at the bottom. That's called the adjuster. And it actually is what we use to make the shoes adjust up so that they are tight enough that you get a good brake pedal and that they work when you put your foot on the brake. If it's not adjusted well, then the brakes will not work in the back. They won't attach and they won't stop. So that's an important part. There's a right hand and a left hand, so you want to be sure that you get the right and left hand side on there, because the one of them screws right-handed thread, one of them is left-handed thread. And here comes the lower spring that he's going to hook to the self-adjuster lever. So these two go together, and he's got this tool that he bought or made or something, but it's a nice hook to hook that together. So here we go. There you go. So now you see the self-adjuster is riding on this star, and this star is how you adjust it. And you can see from the back side right here, there's a notch, and that's where you stick your brake spoon to adjust it. So you will reach back in the back side and turn this star wheel until the shoes actually are adjusted so that when you're turning the brake drum manually, you can just barely hear it rub. And you may have to adjust it a couple times. You may drive it and then come back and adjust it again. But that's how you put together a set of rear brake shoes. Hope that's helpful. I'm Barry Wilson with Wilson Auto Repair. If you want to see more videos like this, go to my website, wilsonauto.com.